Good morning, folks. I am coming from my porch on June 2nd in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, wearing a fleece jacket because it is chilly out here, and it is awesome. And I have a question for you. How is the present model of church working for you? How is what I've seen called, not what I call, the truth, choice, and power model of church working for you? I was reading, this all started from me thinking about the passage that I was pondering yesterday. I was meditating yesterday in James 1:5. It says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously without finding fault, and it will be given to you. And so I was thinking about, what is wisdom? What does that mean right now? Wisdom can mean a lot of things. Wisdom allows us to see into the human condition, to see in the heart of man, to speak into the heart of man, and cut right to the matter. It can do all kinds of things. That's another video. We'll talk about that later. But it's the finding fault part that I want to focus on right now. So God does not find fault. But James specifically says, hey, God will give you, he could have just said, hey, God will give you wisdom, and he'll do it. What was the last part of it? How's the last part of it go? And, if you ask for wisdom, God will give it. It will be given freely to you. But he says, without finding fault. Why? Because I think he had wisdom and he saw to the heart of man. Because we're scared. We're scared to be wrong. And so he wanted to reiterate that God doesn't find fault with you. He's going to share wisdom with you. But he's not going to say, hey, you were wrong. We're scared to be wrong. Why are we scared to be wrong? Orphan heart. We're scared to separate if God tells us something that we believe because our tribe, our group, or whatever believed it. We're scared to be wrong. And so that jumps into all kinds of stuff. And it's like, oh, orphan thinking. But look, that jumps back to that model. Because we've believed if we believe the right things, church, this is church models. If we believe the right things, if we make good, solid choices, our finances and our family, whatever, those kind of things, and we have some kind of displays of power in our life, then we're hitting the ball right. Then you must have a solid faith if you're able to do those things. I'm telling you, that model's crumbling. And Jim Wilder and Marcus Warner hit it right here. And I've been thinking about discipleship for quite a few years, and they jump on it, and that's what really got me here, is because I'm thinking, because my thing has been that if we can get who God is correct and we can get who we are correct, then that's the road to discipling, because we cultivate this relationship and then we cultivate this relationship. That's discipling. And so the way they address it is really phenomenal. And so they talk about, he makes a statement here, power does not produce character. We've seen that. We've seen some powerful ministers fall because they had no character to support it. And they displayed lots of power. And according to their group or people that followed them, they believed all the right things. So, and they were, on the outside, they were successful. Their money was, their ministry was making money and all that. So they must have been making good choices. But they jump into this, so the idea of attachment, and they jump into the Hebrew word hesed. And that word is often translated loyalty, but they talk about how it's a love born out of relationship or attachment. And they call it sticky love. And this is great. So when we see this sticky love, we begin to realize that God is bonded to us with this sticky love. And he's bonded to us regardless of how we act or what value we even add to anything, how successful we are, whether we're making the right choices or not. And probably whatever, if we think or believe the right thing, right? So this jumps into something we talk about all the time. In Matthew, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. The Great Commandment and then therefore the Great Commission are based on sticky love. Being bonded to God, loving the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, then being able to love your neighbor as yourself. That's being bonded. If you're loving them the same way you love yourself. The problem is that so many of us don't love ourselves. So the Great Commission to make disciples of all the nations is based on our ability to love our neighbors as ourselves. And if we don't love ourselves, how can we possibly do the Great Commission? How are we possibly entering disciple making? We're not doing it very well. Sure, we can make programs. We can tell people, this is what you're supposed to think. This is what you're supposed to believe. This is the Romans road. We can do all these kind of things. We can do all that kind of stuff. Memorizing scripture is great. There's parts of all that stuff that's good. But in the end, will it really produce change in character? Or is a sticky love what we need? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to do in this Finding God's Love event coming up June 19th and 20th. We're taking we did what we did in 4 days before. We're going to put it in a 2-day setting, 2 5-hour days, and we are going to dive into the issues that are keeping you from experiencing sticky love with God and sticky love with others, keeping you from true character change, things that have been holding you back from being able to change, from feeling safe to change. And we're going to try and destroy somewhat that other model of thinking, that if you truth, choice, and power, if you believe right, you do right, you act right, because that's a model that just sets you up for failure, because you're always going to fall short. You're always going to fall short of doing all those things. So if your faith is based on those things and your relationship is based on those things, it's not a good model. Your faith and your relationship need to be based in sticky love, because that's what keeps you moving forward. So join us June 19th and 20th for Finding God's Love online event. Just like last time, there's 30 small group seats available, 15 men and 15 women. So go get them as soon as you can, because they will run out. And we look forward to seeing you there and seeing you find breakthrough in freedom in your life, in your love relationships, which leads to all kinds of success in your life. So take it easy.